What's up, y'all? It's Carla, aka Sela the Poet. Happy Sunday evening. How's everybody doing? So, today is Puerto Rican Day. For a lot of the Boricuas that live in New York City. Today, they had the first parade, I think, since COVID had shut it down, I think for the last year or two. So they had the parade, and from what I heard, there was a lot of representation. There was a lot of people there, um, and I think that it's great. I just hope that everybody was safe that went out to the parade. So I just decided to do a clip, just kind of paying homage to my Puerto Rican ancestry. I am an Afro Latina. Uh, Mujer was a Mujer Caribeña. I have a lot of different mixture in my family, but I identify as Afro Latina. Um, I have the West Indian Jamaican side on my grandmother's side of the family, and then on the other side, I have the Afro Puerto Rican side, and that also has Native American on both sides as well. Um, I did a test on ancestry.com, that confirmed my Puerto Rican heritage, that confirmed my Taino heritage. I have Taino blood, I have Puerto Rican and Spain, Portugal. I got a lot of different stuff, but um, Puerto Rico is one of my ancestral places. Puerto Rico, La Isla del Encanto, that's where some of my ancestors were from. Actually, a lot of my ancestors. Doing research on ancestry.com, I actually have a list here of all the places in Puerto Rico that my ancestors came from through the records. So I have two sets of Puerto Rican ancestors because my dad was adopted by a Puerto Rican family. So I have my adoptive grandparents, Puerto Rican towns, and then I have my biological grandparents, Puerto Rican towns. So it's basically two sets of ancestors. I consider my adoptive grandparents my real family because they were the ones that were in my life. They were the ones that taught me la cultura. They were the ones that loved me. They were the ones that, you know, showed me, what it meant to be Puerto Rican. And I owe a lot to them. May they rest in peace. They both passed on. My grandmother's name was Luz Maria Osorio. My grandfather's name was Arturo Osorio, and he was a twin. you know, I think he had a brother named Reynaldo. They called him Reynaldo, but that might be a nickname. But either way, so I'm going to pay homage to my Boricua roots, and I'm going to list the towns that my ancestors from Puerto Rico were from. So we have Cabo Rojo, Carolina, Mayagüez, San Germain, Llanos Tuna, Barazas, Giralama, Tuabajo, San Juan, San Just, Orocovis, Guayama, Trujillo Alto, Hato Puerco, Loaiza, Quirabracada, or I don't know if I'm even saying that one right, Barros, and yeah, that's it. So I have sets of grandparents and great grandparents and great great grandparents and great 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 grandparents. I traced my heritage all the way back to my fifth great grandparents, the biological Puerto Rican side. And a lot of them were from those towns. On my grandparents' adoptive side, I would say that they were more Afro Latino. So they were from the Afro Latino parts of the island, like Carolina, Loaiza, um, Hirelama, San Just, where Tuabaja, where they'll have populations that probably have more kind of like Afro Latinos there. But Yeah, so I'm just here thinking about Puerto Rican identity, thinking about how much it means to me. Um, I consider myself an Afro Latina. I consider myself a Black woman. Even if I have Puerto Rican heritage, my experience living, in the United States is a Black woman. I have the skin tone, I have the hair, and I grew up around, African American people. I grew up around African Americans, and I have African Americans in my family. So most of my bloodline is African. And so I consider that. But, my Boricua side is also very important because, like I said, it's the culture, la cultura of my grandparents. But today was great. I got a chance to watch a documentary with my kids called Yo Soy Boricua, Pa que te lo sepas, and it came out a couple of years ago. Rosie Perez was in it, and it was very informative. It was entertaining. I really enjoyed it, and me and my kids, we had to talk about culture. We had to talk about some of the memories of my grandparents. Growing up, um, the Puerto Rican culture memories, growing up with them. And I'm just, like I said, I'm here remembering them, just trying to pay homage to them. Because if you don't know who you are, if you don't know where you come from, then you don't know who you are. And I know them, and I know what they stand for. I know where they were from, and I know, what their identity was. So I found out that my grandmother, I think they migrated, my grandmother and my grandfather migrated to New York in the 1950s. There was a government program called Operation Bootstrap. If anybody doesn't know what that is, they should look it up. Um, it was basically, I think, an American incentive program for economic purposes, and a lot of Puerto Ricans migrated over to New York. The only thing is, when they got here, they were trying to better their lives. They were trying to, I guess, have upward economic mobility. But when they came here, it wasn't as easy as what they made it seem, because over in this country, there's racism here, and there's discrimination, and there's a hierarchy here that a lot of people deny, and that they don't want to talk about. But I think when my grandfather got here, I think he worked in a factory. And when my grandmother got here, I think at first she kept house, and then she eventually started working at Mama Nadi's Brooklyn Hospital. Either she was a nurse or she was a medical staff there. I remember, growing up, when she used to come from work, I would run down the hill. I would hug her and I would say, Abuela, Grandma. I would miss her, and she would just hug me, and she would call me Negrita. And then we would go inside and we would watch either Christina, or we would watch telenovelas on TV, and she would make us dinner. She would make us Puerto Rican food, and then she would just tell me, stories. And my grandmother was the best. I really miss her, and I guess this is just my way of connecting with my roots. You know, um, I owe, you know, I owe a great deal to my ancestors, because without them, we wouldn't have been here. Without the sacrifices they made, without their choices, we wouldn't have a lot of the freedoms that we have today. We wouldn't be where we are today. So I just, I'm taking this Puerto Rican Day to remember the Puerto Rican side of my heritage and the people in my family. But anyway, so I just wanted to say that, and I hope that everybody is keeping the faith. I hope that everybody remains strong. I hope that everybody stay safe. Make sure you wear your mask, make sure you wash your hands. Try not to be around, too many crowds of people. Have fun, but just be wise with it. And may God bless everyone and have a good night. Peace.